So when Twister was released back in 1996, I was 10 years old, and I remember seeing that opening weekend with my family, and to me, at 10 years old, Twister might as well have been The Godfather. I freaking loved that movie growing up. I probably went and saw it like 3 or 4 times in theaters at 10 years old. So needless to say, I was pretty damn hyped for Twisters. It was one of my most anticipated movies of the summer, with Glen Powell involved. It looked like a fun time at the movies, and to capture that Twister feeling I had when I was 10 years old. So I just got out of the theater, and what do I think of Twisters? It's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, on one hand, I think the first half of this movie is very frustrating, it's very corny, and kind of redundant. However, the second half of this movie I thought was an absolute blast. So it's like, it's a fun, enjoyable, entertaining blockbuster, but it has some problems. So before I get into like the plot details and all that fun stuff, I kind of want to just talk about the action scenes. I would say, again, like the first half of this movie, there are a handful of, action scenes, and I think they were just, they were fine. They didn't blow me away. We were kind of covering familiar ground, and, I wasn't necessarily let down by the action in the first half of this movie, but it wasn't like the worst thing in the world. I just don't think that any of the action, in the first half of this movie was really all that captivating. It's fun to watch, it's entertaining, but it wasn't like a gripping, oh my gosh, how are they going to get out of this situation type of stuff. But then we get to the climax, and to me, the movie saves its best action scene for, the climax, which I actually kind of love. Sometimes action movies kind of blow their load pretty early by giving like the best action scene, either the opening or somewhere in the middle of the movie, and then they get to the climax and it's not as good as what came before it. But in Twisters, they actually save their biggest, grand action set piece for the end, and for that I kind of applaud them, because the last set piece of this movie is a lot of fun. And to me, when I was watching it, I was like, finally, there's stakes involved, because earlier in the movie there's not a whole lot of stakes. It's just kind of like, oh, we need to get close to the tornado and we're gonna go do that. But in the climax of the movie, there's actually like, there's a town involved, there's other people involved. Like, not only like makes it big, makes it grand, but it also makes it human, and makes it like, the fact that more people are involved in that climax made for a more gripping and enthralling watch. And so, as far as the action goes, hit and miss for the first half of the movie, but again, that climax was, a lot of fun, and I'm glad they saved the best bit for last. As far as the story goes, it's fine. It's serviceable. It's entertaining enough. The characters are fun. I mean, Glen Powell, what more is there to say about this guy? He's charming. He's a blast. He's clearly having fun in this role. He's easily the best part of this movie, but we all kind of knew that going in. And then there's Daisy Edgar-Jones, and you know what? I've actually never seen her in a movie before. I was looking at her filmography and I was like, oh, I haven't seen a single movie of hers, and so this is the first time I've actually seen her acting here, and I hate to say it, but I kind of feel like she was miscast. Like, there's some like emotional scenes towards the end of the movie, or actually in the middle of the movie, and I was like, I don't know if I quite got there with her performance. Not that she's bad, she's actually pretty good, but some of her emotional beats, I just I didn't quite get there with her on her emotional stuff. But overall, I thought she was great. I can't wait to see more of her work. But yeah, Glen Powell was the star of the movie, and yeah, like I said, we all saw that coming. So my biggest problem, I said in my opening, on one hand, half of this movie is frustrating and the other half is a lot of fun. What I found frustrating about the first half of this movie, I mean, this is 2 hours long, I'd say the first hour I found to be very frustrating, because this movie takes the same plot beats almost scene for scene from Twister and just puts a new skin on it, and I found that to be so tiring. Like, there's so many scenes that are so similar to Twister. It was just like, oh, this is where this is going to happen, oh, this is where this is going to happen. And like, when you do that, when you come back and reboot this franchise and you're just doing the same scenes almost verbatim, it's not that interesting or that fun. And so I thought, for the first hour of this movie, I was just kind of bummed out. I was like, oh, I'm just watching Twister again. Like I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, or I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, but that's what it felt like. It felt like I was just watching Twister again, but with a new skin and a couple new characters. Because like some of the scenes are almost identical, and I was just like, man, this is what we're doing. We're just redoing Twister. However, you know, once we get to the back half of the film, it doesn't rely on Twister, and I was like, okay, now I'm finally watching a new Twister movie, and that's where I think the movie is the most fun, is the second half. Like I would say, for those of you who've seen it, the moment that Kate goes home to visit her mom, everything from that forward, I was like, this is great, this is fun, this is a great summer blockbuster. I'm invested in the characters, I'm invested in the drama, the action set piece and the climax is a lot of fun, but everything before her visiting her mom, you're just watching Twister. Everything after is new and fresh and fun, and yeah, so it's just kind of a mixed bag. I really wanted to walk away from this movie being like, this is the movie of the summer. I cannot wait to watch this again. I'm going to go watch this like 3 or 4 times on the IMAX. This is going to be a lot of fun. And if I'm being honest, I don't have a desire to go watch this again. You know, not that it's bad. It's not bad by any means, but it wasn't that like huge, massive, like entertaining, you know, summer blockbuster that I wanted it to be. You know, like when I walked out of something like Maverick, I was like, I need to watch that again immediately. Or like Across the Spider-Verse, I was like, I need to watch that immediately. I'm not really quite feeling that with Twisters right now. Maybe that'll change over time. You know, it's Wednesday as I'm recording this. Maybe when Saturday comes along, I may have the inkling to go see it again. But yeah, it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. Again, just for clarity, so that the comments don't chew me up, this is not a bad movie. I'm not giving this a bad review. I'm mostly positive. It's just kind of mixed. You know, there's more things I liked about it than I disliked. But yeah, I just can't get over the fact that, you know, for a large portion of this movie, I was just watching Twister, and I just found that to be such a bummer. And one of the things I wanted to bring this up, you know, very brief here, but I kind of dug the country feel of this movie. Like, how often do we see like a country themed blockbuster? Like, do we ever get those? Like, so from that point of view, this movie did feel kind of fresh. There's a lot of country needle drops. It's very cowboy-esque, you know. So I found that aspect of this movie to be very interesting and new. Like, we don't get country blockbusters like ever. I can't think of one. Maybe you guys can help me on the comments, but like, yeah, it was just cool to see like an action set piece, you know, with a needle drop of a country song. Like, I don't know, I thought that was kind of cool. So yeah, I tip my hat for going full country Twisters. You know, and another aspect I really appreciated is that like these storm chasers, these, you know, tornado chasers, you know, they're not just in it for the thrill, which I was kind of worried about going in, but the movie does a good job at actually having these characters care about the people that, you know, are affected by tornadoes. You know, there's a lot of scenes where like, hey, we need to go save the people. We need to stop what we're doing and we need to go help people. And I thought that was kind of like a nice touch. You know, they're not just in it for the thrills. There's like that human element to it. And I really appreciated that. I wish there would have been a little more science in the movie. I mean, there is science in the movie, but I wish that we would have dug a little deeper and explained more. Like, for instance, Anthony Ramos's character, his whole thing is like, hey, we need to set up these 3 sensors around a tornado and we'll get a 3D mapping of the tornado and it'll help us save lives. And I was kind of like, you know, I wish we would have figured out how and why it would save lives. I mean, maybe there's explanation in the movie that I just missed, but I was like, okay, we're going to get a 3D mapping of this tornado and it's going to save lives, but like how? Like, why is that going to save lives? So I would have loved like a deeper dive into the science of this movie. But unfortunately, and again, unless I missed something, unfortunately, it's not really there. There is some science later on in the climax where they have a plan and they're going to do this and do that. And that was like, okay, that was cool. I you know, I didn't understand the terminology, but I understood, you know, from a layman's perspective, like what they were trying to do. And so I thought that was kind of cool. So at least we got a little bit of science, you know, in the back half of the movie. So yeah, you know, I do recommend this movie. I think that everyone should go check this out. I think you're going to have a good time. This movie is, despite its flaws, it's very entertaining. Like, I was pretty entertained from the moment it started to the moment it ended. Like, it's a brisk 2 hours. There's a lot of fun in the movie. Again, I just feel like that first half is bogged down by just being Twister. But again, at that halfway mark and everything out, woo, that's a lot of fun. So, you know, I recommend go checking this one out. I recommend seeing this on on the biggest screen possible. I didn't see an aspect change. I saw this in IMAX. I didn't think it went full IMAX. So, if you are going to see an IMAX, just know that you're not going to get the full IMAX experience. However, you're going to get good sound and a fucking massive screen. So yeah, see this on the biggest screen possible. You're going to have a lot of fun. And if you've seen the movie, let me know what you thought. Am I being too harsh on the Twister thing? Am I being too hung up on it? Did you like the movie? Did you not like the movie? Let me know in the comments. And until the next time, I will see you on the next one.